What if the way you handle conflict today decides the strength of your relationships tomorrow? Conflict is one of the hardest tests of character. It's easy to be kind when everyone agrees. It's in the argument, the clash, the misunderstanding, that's where our true nature is revealed. We see it everywhere. The workplace meeting that turns into a battle of egos. The family dinner that collapses under an old grievance. The online debate that escalates into insults within minutes. Confucius lived in an age of constant strife. Rival states waged endless wars. Families splintered under ambition. Courts were filled with intrigue and betrayal. Yet in the middle of this chaos, he taught one principle above all, humaneness. He said, "The benevolent man is concerned about others, he who is not benevolent is concerned about himself." For Confucius, peace wasn't the absence of conflict, it was the discipline of handling conflict without cruelty. To correct without humiliating. To argue without demeaning. To protect dignity, even in disagreement. That's the challenge for us today. Conflict will always find us, but how we handle it decides whether relationships collapse or grow stronger. Here are 10 strategies from Confucius for resolving conflict peacefully. They're ancient lessons, tested in the courts of China, but just as relevant in the office, the home, and online. 1. Lead with dignity, not anger. Let's be honest. When someone criticizes you unfairly, or a colleague takes credit for your work, the first thing that flashes through you isn't compassion. It's heat. It's the urge to fire back, to put them in their place, to win. But Confucius would say that exact moment, that flash of heat, is where your character is built. Or where it's lost. This isn't about becoming a passive doormat. It's about leading. And the first person you have to lead is yourself. The why, the science of composure. We now know what Confucius intuited. When you get angry, your body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought and impulse control, literally goes offline. You are biologically primed for a fight, not a fruitful conversation. Leading with dignity means making a conscious choice to override that biological script. It's not about suppressing your feelings, that's a recipe for resentment. It's about regulating them. It's the difference between being angry and feeling angry. You acknowledge the feeling, but you don't let it become the driver. The Confucian anchor, the North Star. Confucius said that a leader who governs by virtue is like the North Star. It remains fixed in its place, and all the other stars revolve around it in harmony. Think about that. The North Star doesn't scream at the other stars to get in line. It doesn't chase them. Its power is in its unwavering, calm, predictable presence. In a conflict, your composure is your North Star. It provides a fixed point of stability that everyone else, who might be emotionally spinning out, can orient themselves around. Your calmness is contagious. Modern, everyday applications. Let's get practical. What does this look like on a Tuesday? In a heated work meeting. Someone shoots down your idea with a dismissive comment. The heat rises to your face. The angry reaction, you interrupt. Well, if you'd actually read the report, you'd see why that's wrong. You've now made it personal. The meeting becomes a battle of egos. The dignified lead, you take a breath. You might even literally sit back in your chair to break the aggressive posture. You say, "I hear your concern. Let me rephrase the core of my proposal to address that." You've de-escalated, kept the focus on the idea, and modeled respectful disagreement. With a frustrated partner or family member. Your spouse snaps at you about a mess you didn't clean up. The angry reaction, you snap back. "Oh, like you're so perfect. What about the dishes you left in the sink?" Congratulations, you're now in a race to the bottom. The dignified lead, you see the comment not as an attack on you, but as a symptom of their stress. You say, "It sounds like you're really overwhelmed. Let's talk about what's actually going on." You've addressed the real root of the conflict, which was never the mess. Online, the ultimate test. You get a rude, aggressive comment on a post. The angry reaction, you type out a furious, witty put-down and hit reply. You've just fed the troll and made the internet a little worse. The dignified lead, you pause. You ask yourself, will my response add light, or just more heat? Often, the most powerful response is none at all. Simply not engaging is a form of composure. If you must respond, try, I sense a lot of passion behind your comment. I'm happy to discuss the actual topic if you're interested. This refuses to accept their frame of conflict and recenters the conversation on dignity. The takeaway: leading with dignity is a quiet power. It's not about dramatic wins. It's about the subtle, powerful act of keeping a door open when others are trying to slam it shut. It's choosing to be the North Star, not another shooting star that burns out in a flash of anger. Your composure isn't a weakness, it's the ultimate strategic tool. It's what makes true resolution possible. 2. See the person behind the offense. When someone hurts us, our instinct is to freeze them in that moment. They become, in our minds, the person who wronged me. It's a simple, satisfying story, the villain and the victim. But this story is a trap. It makes the conflict permanent and the person two-dimensional. Confucius's concept of ren, humaneness, demands that we break this frame. It asks a profoundly difficult question: can you condemn the action while still honoring the humanity of the person who committed it? The why, the psychology of dehumanization. When we turn someone into a villain, we engage in what psychologists call dehumanization. We strip them of a complex inner life, of their own struggles, fears, and reasons. This makes it easier to be cruel to them, but it also makes genuine resolution impossible. You can't negotiate with a monster, you can only slay it or flee. Ren is the deliberate antidote to this. It is the moral and practical choice to rehumanize the other person, even when, especially when, they are failing to see your humanity. The Confucian anchor, the whole person. Confucian thought is deeply holistic. It sees a person not as a single action, but as the sum of their relationships, their history, their efforts, and their potential. An offense is a data point, not the entire graph. To define someone solely by their worst moment is not only unfair, it's a failure of perception. It's seeing a single storm and declaring the entire climate rotten. Modern, everyday applications. This is where theory meets the messy reality of our lives. The neglectful colleague. A teammate consistently misses deadlines, making your life harder. The villain story: they're lazy and irresponsible. They don't care about this team at all. The Ren response: you pause the narrative. You ask, what else is true? Before confronting them, you genuinely wonder, are they overwhelmed with a personal issue? Are they struggling with a skill gap they're ashamed to admit? Are they receiving unclear priorities from multiple managers? This doesn't excuse the behavior, but it changes your entire approach from accusation to inquiry. Instead of, why are you always late? You might ask, I've noticed the last few deadlines have been a struggle. What's going on? Is there a bottleneck I can help with? This approach solves the problem instead of escalating the conflict. The critical partner. Your partner snaps at you over something trivial. The villain story: they're so mean and disrespectful. They're just a negative person. The Ren response: you see the action as a symptom, not the disease. You look past the words to the person uttering them. You might think, they've been under immense pressure at work. They're not sleeping well. This isn't really about the dishes, this is about stress looking for a release valve. Instead of snapping back, you might say, wow, that felt like a really sharp reaction. It seems like something else is bothering you. Want to talk about it? You address the root, not the branch. The internet troll. A stranger leaves a vicious, hateful comment on something you posted. The villain story: they're a horrible, pathetic person. The world would be better off without them. The Ren response: this is the hardest test. But Ren asks you to consider, a happy, well-adjusted person does not spend their time crafting cruel messages to strangers. This behavior is a scream of pain. This person is likely deeply unhappy, isolated, or addicted to the dopamine hit of conflict. This doesn't mean you engage or tolerate the abuse. The most humane response, to both protect yourself and acknowledge their brokenness, is often to delete the comment, block them, and refuse to internalize their poison. You see the person as sick, not evil, and you choose not to catch their disease. How to practice this muscle? This doesn't come naturally. It's a discipline. Here's how to build it. 1. Pause and relabel. When you feel yourself making the villain label, stop. 2. 3. Literally rephrase it in your mind. 4. 5. Instead of, "he is a jerk," say, "he is acting like a jerk right now." 6. Ask, "what pain make?" It a habit to ask yourself, what pain or fear could be driving this behavior? You don't have to know the answer. 7. 8. Just asking the question expands your perspective. 9. Separate deed from doer. This is the core. 10. 11. You can say, "what you did was hurtful and unacceptable," without saying, "you are a hurtful and unacceptable person." The takeaway. Seeing the person behind the offense is not about making excuses for them. It is about arming yourself with the clearest, most accurate picture of reality. It is the ultimate strategic advantage in conflict resolution. When you refuse to dehumanize someone, you rob the conflict of its destructive power. You keep the door open for apology, for change, and for healing. It is the practice of Ren, and it is the practice of seeing people as they truly are, flawed, complex, and human, just like you. 3. Correct in private, praise in public. There's a seductive, momentary power in public criticism. It feels like a quick win. You call someone out, you look strong, and the group might even rally to your side. But it's an illusion. Confucius understood that this kind of victory is incredibly costly. It doesn't correct behavior, it creates resentment, shame, and silent enemies. True leadership isn't about displaying power, it's about wielding it wisely to actually get results. The why, the dynamics of face and dignity. This principle is often called giving face. In the West, we might call it preserving dignity. It's a universal human need. When you correct someone in front of others, you aren't just addressing their mistake, you are attacking their social standing. Their brain shifts instantly from learning mode to defense mode. The goal is no longer to understand, but to protect themselves, to save face. They will shut down, get angry, or become resentful. You have lost them. Praise, on the other hand, is a social currency. Given publicly, it multiplies in value. It doesn't just reward one person, it silently instructs the entire group on what valued behavior looks like. It builds collective trust and shows you are paying attention to what's done well, not just what's done wrong. The Confucian anchor, the art of governing. Confucius taught that governing by virtue was superior to governing by law or force. Public correction is a form of force. It's the law of the jungle. A private correction, however, is an act of virtue. It says, "I care enough about you and your growth to address this, and I care enough about our relationship to do it without humiliating you." This builds loyalty and respect that lasts far longer than fear. Modern, everyday applications. This isn't just for CEOs, it's for parents, partners, and peers. The manager, the missed deadline. The public failure. In a team meeting, you say, "Just so everyone is aware, Sarah missed the deadline on the Thompson report, which set us all back." The air leaves the room. Sarah is mortified. The team feels uneasy. Trust erodes. The private correction, you pull Sarah aside or schedule a quick one-on-one. "Hey Sarah, I noticed the Thompson report didn't get in on time. I wanted to check in. Was there an obstacle I can help you with? How can we make sure the next one is on track?" This is collaborative, not accusatory. You solve the problem with her, and she leaves feeling supported, not shamed. The parent, the messy room. The public failure, with guests over, you sigh and say, "Ugh, ignore that disaster zone. That's Jake's room. I can't get him to clean anything." You've defined your child by their mess in front of an audience. The private correction, later, you go into their room and close the door. "Hey bud, we need to talk about the state of this room. It's your space, but it's also part of our home, and we need to keep it livable. Let's make a plan to get it cleaned up today." The behavior is addressed without the character assault. The partner, the social gaffe. The public failure, at a dinner party, your partner tells a story that slightly misrepresents you. You immediately cut in, "That's not how it happened at all. Why do you always exaggerate?" You've now created a massive, awkward conflict in front of an audience. The private correction, you let the moment pass. On the car ride home, you bring it up gently. Hey, when you were telling that story about the vacation, the way you described it made me feel a little foolish. I know you didn't mean it, but could we maybe get our facts straight next time? The issue is resolved without collateral damage. The nuance and how to. This principle requires intentionality. 1. Praise specifically, not generally. Public praise should be genuine and specific. Great job on the presentation, Sarah, is okay. I wanted to highlight how Sarah structured the client presentation. 2. 3. The way she opened with their pain points immediately grabbed their attention. That's a technique we could all use, is powerful. 4. 5. It tells everyone what to emulate. 6. Correct with a clear purpose. Before a private correction, ask yourself, what is my goal? Is it to vent frustration, or to actually change a behavior? Frame your opening around that goal. I need to talk to you about X so we can avoid this problem next time. 7. The exception to the rule. The only time public correction is necessary is when a behavior is so egregious and public that not addressing it publicly would signal approval, e.g., a racist or sexist comment in a meeting. 8. 9. Even then, the goal is to correct the ideology, not to humiliate the individual. The takeaway. Correcting in private and praising in public isn't about being soft. It's about being strategic and humane. It's about understanding that human psychology is the most important tool you have for fostering growth and cooperation. It is the practice of building people up in the light and helping them rebuild in private. This is how you don't just resolve a single conflict, you build an environment where fewer conflicts happen in the first place. You build a team, a family, a company where people feel safe to learn, to try, and to excel. That is the essence of governing by virtue. 4. Use words that fit reality. In the heat of conflict, our language doesn't just describe the problem, it actively becomes the problem. We reach for the closest, sharpest words, not the most accurate ones. We trade truth for emotional impact. But as Confucius understood, careless language is a spark in a room full of gas. Precise language is the cool, clear water that prevents an explosion. The why, the neuroscience of loaded language. Words like always, never, and you are cognitive distortions. They are what psychologists call overgeneralizations and labeling. When your brain hears them, it doesn't receive them as simple criticism, it receives them as a threat to its entire identity. This triggers a primal defense response, shutting down reasoning and escalating emotional reactivity. You are no longer discussing an event, you are fighting for your very sense of self. The Confucian anchor, the rectification of names. Confucius taught a doctrine called the rectification of names, Zhengming. The idea was that social chaos begins when words lose their true meaning. For order to exist, he argued, words must correspond accurately to reality. A ruler must act like a ruler, a father like a father, and the word betrayal must not be used to describe a simple mistake. In our conflicts, we are responsible for rectifying our own language. We must ensure our words are precise tools for description, not blunt instruments for attack. Modern, everyday applications. This is about swapping the weaponized generalization for the surgical fact. The frustrated partner. The inflammatory language, you never help with the dishes. You're so lazy. This is two attacks in one, an exaggeration, never, and a global label, lazy. The precise, reality-based language. I felt frustrated when I saw the dishes still in the sink this morning after we agreed we'd both clean up last night. This statement is bulletproof because it contains 3 irrefutable facts. 1. A specific action, dishes in sink. 2. A specific time, this morning. And 3. A specific context, after an agreement. It describes the impact on you. I felt frustrated, without assassinating their character. The annoyed manager. The inflammatory language, you always miss the small details. You need to be more careful. This is vague, unhelpful, and feels like a personality judgment. The precise, reality-based language, I reviewed the client proposal you sent. On page 3, the dates in the timeline are from last quarter, and there are 2 typos in the executive summary. For the next version, let's implement a second layer proofread to catch these specifics. This isn't criticism, it's actionable feedback. It moves the conversation from "you are bad" to "here is a problem, and here is how we fix it." The exhausted parent. The inflammatory language: "Why are you always so messy? Your room is a pigsty." This labels the child and guarantees a defensive reaction. The precise, reality-based language: "I see your clean clothes are mixed with the dirty ones on the floor and your homework papers are all over the desk. The rule is that the floor needs to be clear before dinner. Please take 20 minutes to sort this out." This defines the problem with photographic specificity and pairs it with a clear, achievable expectation. The toolkit for precise language. 1. Ban, always, and never. Treat these words as contraband in a conflict. 2. 3. They are almost never true and always harmful. 4. Use I statements to describe impact. Frame the issue around the specific effect it had on you. "I felt overlooked when I wasn't included in that email," instead of "you always exclude me." 5. Stick to the what, when, and where. Anchor your complaint in tangible details. 6. 7. What exactly happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? This removes the vague, accusatory "you" and focuses on the observable event. 8. Replace labels with actions. Instead of "you're irresponsible," say, "When you didn't call to say you'd be late, I didn't know what had happened." The takeaway. Using words that fit reality isn't just being polite. It's a disciplined practice of intellectual honesty and emotional regulation. It is the difference between launching a grenade and performing surgery. When you commit to precise language, you do something revolutionary. You give the other person a problem they can actually solve. You're not asking them to change their entire personality from lazy to industrious. You're asking them to wash the dishes from last night. That is a manageable request. This approach transforms conflict from a battle of wills into a collaborative problem-solving session. It is the practice of Xingming, and it is the surest way to ensure your words pave the way for peace, not more conflict. 5. Appeal to a shared purpose. Conflict has a gravitational pull. It sucks everyone into a vortex of me versus you. Positions harden, perspectives narrow, and the original reason you're even talking to each other vanishes. You're no longer two people trying to build a bridge, you're two people throwing rocks at each other from opposite sides of a river. Confucius knew that the only way to stop this was to redirect everyone's gaze back to the bridge itself. To remind them of the shared purpose that made the project necessary in the first place. This isn't a sentimental trick, it's a strategic recalibration. The why, the psychology of in-group versus out-group. When we fight, we unconsciously create an in-group, me and my allies, and an out-group, you and your position. This tribal mindset is one of the most powerful drivers of human conflict. Appealing to a shared purpose is the deliberate act of redrawing the circle to include everyone involved. It reframes the out-group as a member of the same team facing a common obstacle. This dramatically reduces defensiveness and opens the door to collaboration. The Confucian anchor, the greater mandate. In the warring states of Confucius's time, feuding ministers were often obsessed with personal power and winning petty squabbles. Confucius would remind them of their shared mandate to serve the people and maintain harmony in the kingdom. He elevated the conversation from "what do I want to win?" to "what is our duty to achieve together?" This was a masterstroke. It made personal ambition seem small and petty in the face of a collective, noble goal. Modern, everyday applications. This is about finding the kingdom or the greater mandate in any modern situation. The workplace feud. Two team leads are arguing viciously over budget allocation for their respective projects. The me versus you frame: my project is more critical than yours. You're just trying to starve my team of resources. The shared purpose frame: a good manager intervenes not by picking a side, but by recentering. Hold on. Let's take a step back. We're not here to argue about which project is better. We're both here to serve the same goal, the success of this company. Our shared purpose is to allocate these resources in the way that best drives overall growth. How does each of your proposals serve that goal? This forces the conversation onto objective ground. The family argument. Siblings are locked in a heated debate about what to do for their aging parents' care. The me versus You frame, you just want to put mom in a home because you're selfish. No, you're unrealistic and want to be a martyr. The shared purpose frame, one sibling can change the entire tone by saying, wait. We're both saying this because we love mom and want what's absolutely best for her. That's our common ground. We both want her to be safe, happy, and well cared for. Given that shared purpose, let's evaluate each option based on which one best gives her that. The conflict is now a shared problem to solve, not a battle to win. The political/online debate. A comment thread devolves into insults between two people with different political views. The me versus you frame, you're a heartless fascist. You're a naive socialist. The shared purpose frame, a difficult but powerful move. It seems like we're coming from very different places, but I have to believe we share a common purpose. We both want what we think is best for this country and its people. We just have different ideas on how to get there. Can you tell me what your core ideal for the country is? This doesn't always work, but when it does, it's the only thing that can de-escalate a truly ideological conflict. The toolkit for finding common ground. 1. Identify the higher why. Before entering a difficult conversation, ask yourself, what is the higher goal that both of us ultimately want? E.g., company success, family happiness, a functional household, a safe community. 2. Use unifying language. Begin sentences with, what we both want is. Our common goal here is. We both care about. 3. Physically reorient. Literally turn away from facing each other and face a whiteboard or a problem statement together. 4. 5. Your physical posture can reinforce the mental shift from adversaries to collaborators. 6. Validate the shared intent. Acknowledge that even if their method is wrong, their intention might be aligned with yours. I know you're pushing for this because you want to protect the team, and I respect that. 7. 8. I want to protect them too. 9. 10. Let's figure out the best way to do that together. The takeaway. Appealing to a shared purpose is the ultimate conflict jiu-jitsu. It uses the energy of the disagreement and redirects it toward a common goal. It is the practice of reminding everyone what the real enemy is. It's not the person across from you. The real enemy is the problem you are both facing. When you make that shift, you stop being opponents and start being allies against a common challenge. This is how you transform an argument into a strategy session, and a foe into a partner. 6. Ask before accusing. In the story we tell ourselves about a conflict, we are always the hero, and the other person's motives are always clear. They were lazy, selfish, disrespectful, or malicious. We are brilliant prosecutors, building an airtight case against them in our minds. There's just one problem: we never call the key witness, them. We convict them based on circumstantial evidence and our own biased interpretation. This is the moment where disagreements solidify into intractable conflicts. Confucius's method offers a simple but radical alternative: suspend your verdict and launch an inquiry. The why, the fundamental attribution error. Psychologists have a name for this instinct: the fundamental attribution error. It's our tendency to explain other people's behavior by their character. He's a jerk, but our own behavior by our circumstances. I'm under a lot of stress. When we snap, we have a reason. When they snap, they have a flawed personality. Asking a question before accusing someone is the conscious act of overriding this cognitive bias. It forces you to consider the circumstances, the pressures, the misunderstandings, the full story that you cannot see from your limited perspective. The Confucian anchor, the humility of the scholar. Confucianism is built on lifelong learning, xue. A true scholar, in the Confucian sense, approaches the world with a mindset of humility and curiosity, always aware of how much they do not know. To assume you know someone's inner motive is the opposite of this. It is arrogance. It is claiming knowledge you cannot possibly have. Asking a genuine question embodies the scholar's humility. It admits, I do not have the full picture. Please, help me understand. Modern, everyday applications. This is about replacing the language of judgment with the language of discovery. The offended colleague. A coworker dismisses your idea in a meeting. The accusation, the closed door. You confront them later. Why did you undermine me in there? Do you have a problem with me? This assumes malicious intent and puts them immediately on the defensive. The inquiry, the open door. You approach them and say, "Hey, can I get your perspective? When my idea came up in the meeting, you seem to have some strong reservations. Can you help me understand your concerns a bit more? I want to make sure I'm considering all the angles." This does three things. It assumes they have a reason, not a malice, it values their expertise, and it makes you look collaborative, not defensive. The worried partner. Your partner arrives home much later than they said they would, without calling. The accusation, the closed door. Why can't you ever just be considerate and call? You're so irresponsible. This attacks their character. The inquiry, the open door. Hey, I was getting worried when I didn't hear from you. What happened that kept you out so late? This expresses your genuine feeling, worry, and asks for the story. The answer might be, "My phone died, and the meeting ran over. I'm so sorry, I was frustrated too." You now have a problem to solve together, a dead phone, not a character flaw to fight about. The annoyed friend. A friend keeps canceling your plans at the last minute. The accusation, the closed door. Why do you even bother making plans if you're just going to flake? You clearly don't value our friendship. This is a nuclear option that will likely end the friendship. The inquiry, the open door. I've noticed you've had to cancel the last few times we've made plans. Is everything okay? I miss hanging out and want to make sure you're doing all right. This comes from a place of care, not anger. Their reason might be a hidden struggle with mental health, a family issue, or overwhelming stress, things you would never have discovered with an accusation. The toolkit for inquiry over accusation. 1. Ban why. When it's an accusation, the word why is often a weapon in disguise. Why would you do that? 2. Use these openers instead. What was going on for you when that happened? Help me understand your thinking on that. I'd like to hear your perspective on what happened. Talk to me about what led up to that decision. 3. Listen to understand, not to rebut. This is the crucial second step. 4. 5. If you ask a question just waiting for your turn to talk, you've gained nothing. 6. 7. Listen to their answer as if you're a detective trying to understand the case, not a lawyer trying to win it. The takeaway. Asking before accusing is the ultimate de-escalation tool. It is the strategic choice to replace your internal narrative with their actual reality. It transforms you from a prosecutor, whose goal is to assign blame, into a detective, whose goal is to uncover the truth. And the truth, complex, messy, and human, is the only thing that ever leads to genuine, lasting resolution. It is the practice of choosing curiosity over certainty, and in doing so, finding a path forward where none seem to exist. 7. Practice patience in silence. In our hyperconnected, reactionary world, we are conditioned to believe that a quick retort is a sign of intelligence and wit. We feel a social and psychological pressure to have an immediate answer, to win the point, to not let a comment slide. But this is a trap. The most powerful person in the room is often not the one speaking, but the one who is comfortable in the silence that follows a provocation. Confucius taught that true wisdom lies in timing and restraint. The ability to not fill the space with noise, but to hold it with quiet composure, is a superpower in resolving conflict. The why, the hijacked brain, and the 90-second rule. Neuroscience shows us that when we are provoked or angered, our amygdala, the threat detection center of the brain, hijacks our prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational thought, impulse control, and empathy. This amygdala hijack is a biological event that lasts about 90 seconds. The urge to fire back a sharp reply is a chemical impulse, not a reasoned strategy. Practicing silence is simply the act of waiting for the storm of chemicals to pass. It's allowing your higher brain functions to come back online before you choose your response. A response chosen by your rational mind will always be more effective than a reaction driven by your primal brain. The Confucian anchor, the value of reserve and timing. Confucian philosophy highly values reserve, quiet cultivation, and the concept of timing, sure. A superior person, or junzi, knows that a wise word spoken at the wrong time is a foolish word. They understand that action must be appropriate to the moment. Sometimes, the most appropriate action is purposeful inaction. Silence is not empty, it is a space for respect, for reflection, and for the natural course of events to unfold without your ego forcing its will upon it. Modern, everyday applications. This is about reclaiming control by consciously choosing not to react. The provocative email or text. You receive a message that is rude, accusatory, or inflammatory. The regrettable reaction, you immediately type out a furious, defensive, or sarcastic reply and hit send. You have now escalated a digital conflict into a full-blown war, with a permanent written record of your worst impulses. The patient silence, you read it. You feel the heat rise. And then you close the app or your email client. You walk away. You let the 90-second biochemical wave, and the ones that follow, crash and recede. You might even sleep on it. When you return, you can now respond to the issue within the message, not the emotion behind it. Your response will be shorter, calmer, and more powerful. Often, your silence alone will force the other person to reflect on their own harsh words. The personal jab in a meeting. A colleague makes a snide remark about your work or a mistake you made. The regrettable reaction, you interrupt the flow of the meeting to defend yourself, offering a sharp comeback that makes you look just as petty and throws the meeting off agenda. The patient silence, you make brief eye contact, acknowledge you heard them with a neutral nod or a simple, "I'll take that into consideration," and allow the meeting to continue. This exudes professionalism and unshakable composure. You can address it with them later, privately, if necessary. By not taking the bait, you win the room and deny them the dramatic reaction they wanted. The heated argument with a partner. Your partner says something hurtful in the heat of an argument. The regrettable reaction, you reach into your mental arsenal for the thing you know will hurt them most. The conflict instantly escalates from a disagreement to a character assassination. The patient silence, you take a deep breath. You say, "What you just said was very hurtful. I need a moment to process that before I can respond." Then you leave the room. This silence is not stonewalling, it is a communicated pause. It is a dignified timeout that prevents irreversible damage and allows both of you to cool down. It is the ultimate protection of the relationship. The toolkit for purposeful silence. 1. Buy yourself time. Have a set of neutral phrases ready to create space. That's an interesting point. Let me think about that for a moment. I need to process this. Can we take a brief pause? I don't have a response for that right now. 2. Breathe before you speak. Make it a rule to take one full, deep breath before responding to any charged comment. 3. 4. This simple act disrupts the impulsive reaction. 5. The 24-hour rule. For digital communication, consider implementing a personal rule to wait 24 hours before responding to anything that triggers a strong emotional reaction. 6. Reframe silence as strength. Internalize that silence is not weakness, submission, or losing. 7. 8. It is the disciplined, powerful choice to remain in control of yourself and the tempo of the interaction. The takeaway. Practicing patience in silence is the art of strategic non-engagement. It is the understanding that you do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. By mastering the pause, you shift the power dynamic. You are no longer a puppet whose strings are pulled by another person's provocation. You are the composer, using the rests, the silences between the notes, to create a more harmonious outcome. In the economy of conflict, sometimes the most valuable currency is the word you did not say. 8. Seek patterns, not moments. Our brains are wired for efficiency, not fairness. They are quick to judge, to label, and to file people away into neat categories based on a single, powerful experience. This mental shortcut is useful for avoiding danger, but it's disastrous for building relationships. It means we are often not reacting to a person, but to a caricature we've created based on their worst moment. Confucius's teachings urge us to fight this instinct. To see a person fully is to see them across time. It is to understand that a single data point does not define the entire graph of their character. The why, the cognitive bias of labeling. This principle directly counteracts the cognitive bias known as the halo effect, and its opposite, the horns effect. This is our tendency to let one positive trait spill over to our overall judgment of a person, the halo, or, more destructively, to let one negative action or trait paint our entire perception of them, the horns. When someone makes a mistake, the horns effect screams, "See!" This proves they are incompetent/selfish/irresponsible. Seeking patterns is the deliberate, rational process of gathering more data to see if that label actually holds true. The Confucian anchor, the whole person and enduring nature. Confucianism is fundamentally about cultivation and growth over a lifetime. A Junzi, a noble person, is not born perfect. They are committed to a lifelong path of learning and self-improvement. This worldview inherently values the whole journey over a single stumble. To define someone by a momentary failure is to ignore the core Confucian belief in human potential and the capacity for change. It is a failure of perspective, rejecting the complex, enduring nature of a person for the simplicity of a snapshot. Modern, everyday applications. This is about replacing the permanent label with a temporary assessment. The employee's mistake. A reliable employee makes a significant error that costs the company a client. Judging the moment, I can't believe they screwed up so badly. They're clearly not cut out for this role. I can't trust them with important clients anymore. This reaction, based on one data point, demoralizes a good employee and loses their future potential. Seeking the pattern, this is a serious mistake, and it's out of character for them. Their pattern over the last 3 years has been one of consistency and diligence. I need to treat this as an exception, not a new rule. Let me talk to them to understand what unique pressures or circumstances led to this one-off error so we can prevent it, not punish them. This protects a valuable asset and solves the root cause. The friend's letdown. A close friend forgets your birthday for the first time ever. Judging the moment, they didn't even call. They obviously don't care about me anymore. Our friendship must not mean as much to them as it does to me. This turns an oversight into a catastrophic betrayal. Seeking the pattern, this isn't like them at all. The pattern of our 15-year friendship is filled with thoughtfulness and reliability. They've never forgotten before. I should check in, maybe they're dealing with something huge that's completely overwhelming them. This approach comes from a place of concern and preserves a deep friendship. The partner's harsh words. During a stressful week, your normally supportive partner says something uncharacteristically cruel. Judging the moment, you are a cruel person. I will never forget you said that. This defines their entire identity by a comment made under duress. Seeking the pattern, what you said was deeply hurtful. But that is not the person you have been for the last decade. The pattern is that you are kind and supportive, and this was a moment of extreme stress. We still need to address this comment, but I will not let this one moment erase the years of goodness. This allows you to address the specific hurt without torpedoing the entire relationship. The toolkit for pattern recognition. 1. Conduct a pattern audit. Before reacting, consciously review the history. 2. 3. Ask yourself, is this behavior a chapter in their story, or is it just a page? Is this who they are, or is this something they did under pressure? 4. Ban absolute language. Strictly avoid words like always and never in your internal narrative. 5. 6. They are the language of moments, not patterns. 7. Assume context, not malice. Start from the assumption that an out-of-character moment is likely caused by unseen context, stress, grief, illness, overwhelm, rather than a sudden, permanent change in character. 8. Address the exception, not the rule. When you do need to address the mistake, frame it against their positive pattern. This isn't like you, which is why it stood out. 9. 10. Can we talk about what led to this? The takeaway. Seeking patterns, not moments, is the practice of profound fairness. It is giving others the same grace you hope to receive on your own bad days, the understanding that you are more than your worst moment. It is the wisdom to know that a single cloud does not define the sky, and a single action does not define a soul. By judging people by the full pattern of their character, you build relationships that are resilient, loyal, and capable of weathering the inevitable mistakes we all make. You move from being a harsh critic to a wise observer, and in doing so, you create an environment where people feel safe to be human. 9. Choose fairness over victory. There is a primal thrill in victory. In proving your point, in silencing the opposition, in hearing the words, "You're right." But that thrill is addictive and often poisonous. It tricks us into believing that being right is the same as being effective. We can win every argument and still lose everything that matters, our relationships, our respect, and our integrity. Confucius would see this not as strength, but as a profound failure of character. True strength isn't found in dominating others, but in governing oneself and upholding what is just, even when it costs you a personal win. The why, the zero-sum fallacy. Many conflicts feel like a zero-sum game. For me to win, you must lose. This is a fallacy, but our egos are wired to believe it. Choosing fairness over victory is the conscious decision to transform the conflict from a zero-sum game into a collaborative search for a right outcome. It requires divorcing your self-worth from the outcome of the argument. Your value isn't determined by being right, it's demonstrated by being righteous, by acting with integrity and a concern for the collective good. The Confucian anchor, the concept of righteousness. For Confucius, the ultimate guiding principle for a noble person, Junzi, was not success, but righteousness, or moral disposition to do good. This means your actions should be motivated by what is inherently right and fair, not by what is personally advantageous. A decision is correct because it is morally sound, not because it benefits you. In a conflict, demands you ask, what is the most just resolution here? Not, how can I get my way? Victory that violates is a hollow and shameful victory. Modern, everyday applications. This is about auditing your motives in real time. The workplace disagreement. You're in a tense negotiation over resources with another department head. You could leverage your seniority to force a win for your team. The path to victory, you pull rank. You get what you want. Your team wins. The other department head feels humiliated and undermined. They now resent you and will actively work against you in the future, creating long-term dysfunction. The path to fairness, you say, let's look at the quarterly goals for both our departments. Which allocation truly best serves the company's top priorities, even if it means my team gets a little less this time? This demonstrates leadership, earns respect, and builds a coalition partner for the future. You may lose resources, but you win immense social capital and trust. The family argument. You and your sibling are debating what to do with a family heirloom. You have a slightly stronger legal claim to it. The path to victory, you insist on your legal right. You take the heirloom. You win. But you create a permanent rift in your family, turning a cherished object into a symbol of resentment. The path to fairness, you say, this isn't about who has the right to it. It's about what mom would have wanted and what would be best for our family's harmony. Maybe we can find a way to share it or find a solution we're both at peace with. You prioritize the health of the relationship over possession of the object. The relationship squabble. You and your partner are arguing about whose turn it is to do an unpleasant chore. You know you're technically right based on your agreed-upon schedule. The path to victory, you weaponize the schedule. According to the chart, it's your night. I'm not doing it. You get to relax. You've won. But you've made your partner feel alone and nickel-and-dimed, turning a partnership into a transactional battle. The path to fairness, you see they are exhausted and stressed. You say, look, I know it's your turn, but you seem really wiped. I've got this one tonight. This isn't about being a doormat, it's about being a partner. Fairness isn't always a 50-50 split, sometimes it's a 60-40 split where you give more because your partner needs it. You win a stronger, more supportive relationship. The toolkit for choosing fairness. 1. The motive checkpoint. In the heat of argument, pause and ask yourself the defining question, am I fighting for what's right, or am I just fighting to be right? The answer will instantly clarify your path. 2. Define fair together, shift the conversation. 3. 4. Say, let's not focus on what we each want, but on what would be the fairest solution for everyone involved. This reorients the discussion on a shared principle. 5. Consider the long-term cost. Weigh the short-term thrill of victory against the long-term cost to the relationship. 6. 7. Is being right about this one thing worth the resentment that will fester for years? 8. Practice generous interpretation. Assume the other person is also arguing for what they believe is fair. 9. 10. Your job is to understand their version of fairness and integrate it with yours. The takeaway. Choosing fairness over victory is the mark of true emotional and moral maturity. It is the understanding that the highest form of winning is not a defeated opponent, but a preserved relationship and a clear conscience. It is the practice of aligning your actions with a deeper sense of what is right. In the end, you may have to explain a compromise to others, but you will never have to explain a compromise with your own principles. You build a reputation not as someone who is always right, but as someone who is always fair. And that is a victory that truly lasts. 10. Return to humanity daily. We often think of conflict resolution as a set of tools we pull out during an emergency, a fire extinguisher we grab when the flames are already high. But what if the real goal wasn't just to put out fires, but to become fireproof? To create a life where destructive conflicts are less likely to ignite in the first place. Confucius did not see humaneness, Ren, as a tactic. He saw it as a discipline, a daily practice of character cultivation that becomes your default state of being. The previous 9 strategies are meaningless if they are not rooted in this 10th, foundational practice, the conscious, daily return to your own humanity and your recognition of it in others. The why, the compound interest of character. Your responses in a crisis are not decided in the moment, they are the sum total of thousands of tiny choices you made beforehand. Every time you choose patience in a minor irritation, every time you offer a word of thanks, every time you assume good faith in a stranger, you are making a deposit into your emotional and ethical bank account. You are strengthening the neural pathways of compassion and weakening the reflexes of reactivity. When a major conflict hits, you don't have to remember to be humane, you have built a reservoir of strength to draw from. It has become who you are. The Confucian anchor, the daily cultivation of Ren. For Confucius, moral excellence was not an innate gift but a skill honed through relentless daily practice, like a craftsman sharpening their tools. The Analects are filled with the idea of constant self-improvement and introspection. The noble person, Junzi, examines himself 3 times a day, constantly checking his actions against his moral principles. Returning to humanity daily is this practice. It is the mindful effort to, each day, sand down your rough edges of ego and impatience, and polish your capacity for empathy and respect, making it a little smoother and brighter each time. Modern, everyday applications. This is about the micro habits that build a macro change in your life. The daily commute. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The default reaction, lay on the horn, yell, let rage ruin your next 10 minutes. The practice of Ren, take a breath. Say to yourself, maybe they're having a worse morning than I am. Maybe they're rushing to an emergency. This isn't about excusing bad driving, it's about protecting your own peace by refusing to let a stranger's action dictate your emotional state. It's a rep for your compassion muscle. The frustrating interaction. A retail worker is slow or makes a mistake. The default reaction, sigh heavily, tap your foot, make a sarcastic comment. You assert your superiority in a situation where the other person has no power. The practice of Ren, make eye contact and smile. Say, looks like a long day. No worries. This small act of grace acknowledges their humanity, de-escalates your own frustration, and often transforms the entire interaction. The home environment. You come home tired and your partner or child wants your attention. The default reaction, snap that you need peace and quiet, creating a small rift. The practice of Ren, pause at the door. Take a conscious breath to transition from work you to home you. Give them 5 minutes of fully present attention before you decompress. This small deposit prevents countless future withdrawals of resentment. The toolkit for daily practice. 1. The morning intention. Start the day by setting a simple intention. Today, I will look for one opportunity to be kind without any expectation of return. This primes your brain to notice those opportunities. 2. The evening examination. Take 2 minutes at night to reflect. When did I live up to my values today? When did I fall short? What was the trigger? Not to judge yourself, but to learn for tomorrow. 3. Micro-meditations. Throughout the day, take 30-second pauses. 4. 5. Breathe and ask, am I acting for my best self right now? This resets your nervous system. 6. Actively humanize, make it a game. 7. 8. In a crowded room or a long meeting, look at each person and silently think, this person has known joy and pain, just like me. 9. 10. They want to be happy and avoid suffering, just like me. This practice dismantles otherness. The final takeaway. Returning to humanity daily is how you move from managing conflict to transcending it. It is the commitment to make peace not just an outcome you desire, but a presence you carry within you. The 9 strategies we've discussed are the what. This 10th principle is the how. How do you make them real? Through daily practice. You won't always get it right. But the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. It is the slow, steady shaping of your character until your default response to the world is one of grounded dignity, quiet strength, and profound respect for the humanity in everyone you meet. This is the ultimate wisdom of Confucius, that the most powerful peace is not the one we broker, but the one we build, day by day, within ourselves. Confucius warned that a society descends into disorder when words lose their truth and actions lose their humanity. But when we choose to lead with dignity, to see the person behind the offense, and to appeal to our shared purpose, we do more than resolve a dispute, we rebuild trust. We fortify our relationships. We create small islands of peace in a chaotic world. This is the timeless power of Ren. It's not a complex philosophy reserved for scholars, it is a choice we are all invited to make, every single day. A choice to be concerned with others, not just ourselves. Which of these strategies resonated most with you? Drop it in the comments, we'd love to hear your story. If this path to peace resonated with you, share this video with someone who needs this reminder, a colleague, a friend, a family member. Let's spread the wisdom. Like this video if you found it valuable, and subscribe to the channel to join us as we continue exploring ancient wisdom for modern life. Thank you for watching. May your actions bring peace.